The News 8 investigators take a look at some big problems with tax returns.
Well, imagine going to a tax preparer only to find out that someone already filed a tax return in your name. Well, it's happening at an alarming rate. News 8's investigator Noelle Gardner explains just what's going on.
Tax season is a stressful time for us, and if your identity is stolen, it can only make matters worse. Identity thieves are filing more and more bogus tax returns each year. It's not only costing the government billions of dollars, it could cost you by slowing down your tax refund.
Millions of hardworking Americans like George file a tax return, looking forward to getting a refund from the government. But in George's case, someone already filed a tax return in his name and got back his money.
I went down to the H&R Block office in town and I brought all my stuff that I had put together, sat down. As soon as I gave him the W-2s, he pulled up my information and it came up that I already filed taxes.
The fraudulent tax return was filed at an H&R Block location in Brooklyn, located 94 miles away from George's home in Connecticut. The return says he resides in New Jersey, is married, and uses a place of employment he worked at 13 years ago.
Somebody either stole my information from the company I worked for in '01, or somebody in H&R Block did this return from an old return that they found on their files.
George is far from alone.
This has happened to over 1.3 million people just in the last year alone, and it resulted in over $5 billion of false refunds.
Tax experts say it doesn't take much for someone to file a return in your name.
Someone just needs to get a hold of your Social Security number and your name. That is all they need to file a tax return.
I want to change my Social Security number. I want to change everything. You know, I had to put a credit freeze on everything that I had. I had to go to my bank. I had to change all my accounts. What do you do? What do you do?
In George's case, the fraudulent return was filed the first day of tax season, and for good reason.
So what a criminal will do is file a fraudulent tax return very early in the season before the IRS has a time to receive those documents and verify the data on the tax return.
From 2011 to 2014, the IRS stopped 19 million suspicious returns and protected over $63 billion in fraudulent returns.
Our job on our end is to always upgrade our technology and our filters to be able to detect those fake tax returns so they do not go through the system.
Recent major data breaches include Home Depot, Target, Anthem, and TurboTax.
Scammers are just finding more and more ways of how to work the system, how to become creative. So that's why we're working hard on trying to see what trends are we seeing out there that these scammers are coming up with, and how can we work to avoid those bogus tax returns.
As for George, he doesn't know how his information got compromised or when he will see his return from the federal government.
We reached out to H&R Block for comment and were directed to their corporate headquarters. We have yet to hear back, but we want to be clear that H&R Block was not responsible for the fraudulent return being filed. To reduce your chances of falling victim to fraud, experts say file your tax returns early. If your tax information has been compromised, the IRS will issue you a PIN number to use when filing your tax return. If you think you're a victim of identity theft, go to WTNH.com for tips and click on the Investigators tab. I'm Noelle Gardner for the News 8 Investigators.